ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 13, The Descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. So we have seen the glorious dynasty of Dhruva Maharaj, but King Anga, he got married to Sunitha, who was the daughter of death personified. And it's like getting married to a gangster's daughter, something like that. And the whole thing got a different turn altogether. So he had a son, Vena, and Vena was very, very cruel to the citizens. And right from his childhood, he was very cruel to his playmates. We come to text 44. यतः पापीयसी कीर्तिर् अधर्मश्च महाश्रुणान् यतो विरुद्ध सर्वेषां यत् आन्धिर् अनन्तकः. Translation.
A sinful son causes a person's reputation to vanish. His irreligious activities at home cause irreligion and quarrel among everyone. And this creates only endless anxiety. Purport. It is said that a married couple must have a son, otherwise, their family life is void. But a son born without good qualities is as good as a blind eye. A blind eye has no use for seeing, but it is simply unbearably painful. The king therefore thought himself very unfortunate to have such a bad son. Hare Krishna.
So here, the sinful son, this is how King Anga, he is thinking about himself. A sinful son causes the person's reputation to vanish. At home and at everywhere, because of the irreligion and the quarrel, this creates endless anxiety. Classic example of this is Dhritarashtra. Endless anxiety. Always in anxiety. Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. Where? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the married couple must have a son or daughter. I have daughter only. Okay. So this is spoken in the context and it should be understand in the context that must have a son or daughter, otherwise their family life is void, in the sense that, so what is understanding is that one should very much try to have children in the married life, and somehow by the will of the providence, even after having sufficiently tried, and in ISKCON, there are the way we follow it is, at least some of our personal opinion is, go to the final end of technology, going for even IVF and other things, and try to have a child. That is the Grihastha Dharma is. Again, this is subject to different opinions, and we don't want to take any firm position on that. This is one opinion. Go to the final end of technology and try to have a child. And if it doesn't, then understand, after trying sufficiently, understand that that is the will of the Lord, And then you have done your part extremely well. And there are many celebrated couples in ISKCON. I just will not take the names, but they tried their best to have a child, somehow, not able to, but then continued with amazing qualities of devotional service. Right. So this has to be understood in that perspective. Otherwise, the family life is void. A son born without good qualities is as good as a blind eye. Why blind eye? Prabhupada says here, the blind eye means eye is supposed to see. Blind eye will not see, but it will pain unbearably. So much so that there is no use. It is not able to see, and there is unbearable pain. And therefore, that is called as blind eye. Text 45. कस्तं प्रजापदेशं वै मोहबन्धं बन्धनमात्मनः पंडितो बहुमन्येत यदर्था क्लेशदा गृहा. Translation.
Who, if he is considerate and intelligent, would desire such a worthless son? Such a son is nothing but a bond of illusion for the living entity, and he makes one's home miserable. Hare Krishna.
So Maharaj Anga is saying that who is one who is considerate and intelligent, who will desire such a worthless son? Such a son is nothing but a bond of illusion for the living entity, as makes one's home miserable. Okay. Again, there are many examples, and examples don't want to quote here, but there is a very famous son-father pair, and there is the day father transferred property to the son usurped all the property, huge empire, more than the 2 billion US dollar, and the father is living in a rented house now. And it's a very different story altogether. Text 46. कदपत्यं वरं मन्ये सदपत्याच्छुचां पदात् निर्विद्येत गृहान् मर्त्यः यत्क्लेश नीवहा गृहा. Translation.
Then the king thought, a bad son is better than a good son because a good son creates an attachment for home, whereas a bad son does not. A bad son creates a hellish home from which an intelligent man naturally becomes very easily detached. Purport. The king began to think in terms of attachment and detachment from one's material home. According to Prahlad Maharaj, the material home is compared to a blind well. If a man falls down into a blind well, it is very difficult to get out of it and begin life again. Prahlad Maharaj has advised that one give up this blind well of home life as soon as possible and go to the forest to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to the Vedic civilization, this giving up of home by Vanaprastha and Sannyasa is compulsory. But people are so attached to their homes that even up to the point of death, they do not like to retire from home life. King Anga, therefore, thinking in terms of detachment, accepted his bad son as a good impetus for detachment from home life. He therefore considered his bad son his friend since he was helping him become detached from his home. Ultimately, one has to learn how to detach oneself from to material life. Therefore, if a bad son, by his bad behavior, helps a householder to go away from home, it is a boon.
Yeah. So now King Anga Maharaj, being a great personality he was seeing the whole situation in a very devotional way. Right. So he thought to himself, again with the context, he tried his best uh, to train the son, to train the child, but the child was a ruthless killer right from his childhood. And then he thought to himself, a bad son is better than the good son because the bad son will at least create a hellish home, and thus one can become very easily detached. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes the king began to think in terms of attachment and detachment out of helplessness. And this is how he very positively concluded towards Krishna consciousness. So, very trying situation, but devotee, example of a King Anga Maharaj here, that he took a very essence of that and tried to change that situation favorable towards Krishna consciousness, anukulyasya sankalpa. Srila Prabhupada quotes Prahlad Maharaj here, Vanam gato yat harimashriyeta. One should not live perpetually in the home life. One should go to the forest. What this means is one should progressively, as one's ages, as one's responsibilities are over. That is very important thing. You cannot give a age particularly nowadays at the age of 55 or 60. Roughly we can say. But nowadays people, the marriage itself takes place at the age of 27, 28. The first child is at 32, second is at 34, and then naturally 34 plus 26, around 61 is obviously busy, right? So once when one completes one's responsibilities, then progressively one should focus more on Krishna, and one should be in a withdrawal mode as one's ages towards vardhakya. And this was the feeling of King Anga, and thinking like this, he decided to give up the house. Text 47. एवं स निर्विण्णमनानपो गृहान् निशीथे उत्थाय महा उदय उदयात् अलब्धनिद्रा अनुलक्षितान्द्रुभिर् हित्वा गतः स्वेन शुभं प्रसुप्ताम्. Translation.
Thinking like that, King Anga could not sleep at night. He became completely indifferent to household life. Once, therefore, in the dead of night, he got up from bed and left Vena's mother, his wife, who was sleeping deeply. He gave up all attraction for his greatly opulent kingdom, and unseen by anyone, he very silently gave up his home and opulence and proceeded towards the forest. Purport. In this verse, the word Mahadayat indicates that by the blessings of a great soul, one becomes materially opulent. But when one gives up attachment to material wealth, that should be considered an even greater blessing from the great souls. It was not a very easy task for the king to give up his opulent kingdom and young faithful wife, but it was certainly a great blessing of the Supreme Person of Godhead that he could give up the attachment and go out to the forest without being seen by anyone. There are many instances of great souls leaving home in this way in the dead of the night, giving up attachment for home, wife, and money.
So one day he could not sleep during the night, and therefore, thinking like this very intensely about the detachment, he left his wife Sunitha because she was happy with Vena. They just matched the vibration. She was happy with Vena's atrocities, and she was not willing to. Right. When she was in deep sleep, unseen by anyone, he silently gave up his home and proceeded towards the forest. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, Mahadayodaya, by the blessings of the great soul, one may have udaya materially. Material udaya means one may become very opulent, materially opulent, but the real blessings are to use that opulence in the service of the Lord and become detached from that opulence. And Prabhupada says there are many instances of the great souls who are leaving the home in the dead of the night. And the very classic example is Srila Prabhupada himself, right? That Srila Prabhupada had a very, of course, it's plan of the Lord, and that's how the great souls, great personalities are. But then quite uncooperative wife, and then at one point of time, certain things happened, and Prabhupada left home. Text 48. विज्ञाय निर्विद्यगतं प्रतिं प्रजा पुरोहितामात्यसृहृत् गणादयः विचक्य उर्व्याम् अतिशोककातरा यथा निगूढं पुरुषं कुयोगिनः. Translation.
When it was understood that the king had indifferently left home, all citizens, priests, ministers, friends, and people in general were greatly aggrieved. They began to search for him all over the world, just as a less experienced mystic searches out the supersoul within himself. Purport: the example of searching for the supersoul within the heart by the less intelligent mystic is very instructive. The absolute truth is understood in three different features, namely impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such kuyoginaha or less intelligent mystics can by mental speculation reach the point of the impersonal Brahman, but they cannot find the super soul who is sitting within each living entity. When the king left, it was certain that he was staying somewhere else, but because the citizens did not know how to find him, they were frustrated like the less intelligent mystics.
So, when the news broke out, the king has indifferently left the home. Everybody. Vigyaya nirvidya gatam patim praja. Right. Patim, word used here for the king is Patim, the Raja, who was like very fatherly to the all the citizens. He had indifferently left home. Citizens, priests, ministers, friends, and people in general, they grieved and they began to search him all over the world. Urvam, right? Urvi means Prithvi. So Urvam, across the Prithvi, but they were unable to find, just as, and then the classic example that Bhagavatam gives, Yatha Nigudham Purusham Kuyoginah. Kuyoginah means inexperienced mystic. They try to find the super soul in the heart, but they are unable to find. The super soul is sitting in their own hearts, but they are unable to find him there. Similarly, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the example of searching for the super soul within the heart by the less intelligent mystic is very instructive. Absolute truth is found in three ways. Vadanti tat tattvavidas, tattvam yajnanam advayam, brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdate. By mental speculation at best, after prolonged mental speculation, one can reach Brahmajyoti, but which is, in a way far off, but when one cannot reach Paramatma, which is in the heart of everybody or his own heart. Similarly, kuyoginaha, because the king desired not to reveal to the citizens could not know the king and they could not find the king anywhere across the earth. Right? Just like the Paramatma who doesn't reveal to Kuyoginaha, similarly, king did not reveal himself to citizens. Alakshayantah padavim prajapater hatodhyama pratyupasrutyate purim. ऋषिन् समेतान् अभिवन्द्य सराश्रवः न्यन्ने न्यवेदयन् पौरवभर्तुविप्लवम्. Translation.
Translation: When the citizens could not find any trace of the king, after searching for him everywhere, they were very disappointed, and they returned to the city where all the great sages of the country assembled because of the king's absence. With tears in their eyes, the citizens offered respectful obeisances and informed the sages in full detail that they were unable to find the king anywhere. Purport: Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Description of the Descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah. When the citizens could not find any trace of the king after searching everywhere, they were very disappointed. The king suddenly left and they were very disappointed. Just like Lord Ram suddenly left. Citizens were following Lord Ram, but suddenly he's asked Sumantra when everybody was in deep sleep at the outskirts of Ayodhya. And then, suddenly he left and nobody could find where Ram, Lakshman, Sita, they vanished in the forest. They returned to the city where all the great sages of the country assembled because of the king's absence. With tears in their eyes, citizens offered respectful obeisances to the sages. In a full detail, they were unable to find the king anywhere, suddenly disappearing. There are many instances. Like, when the Agyatavasa was about to start, there were so many Guptachars and Pandavas and Draupadi was so kind to all these, the spies who were keeping eye on the Pandavas because Duryodhana wanted that one day he has to just search. And then Draupadi one day she asked all these Guptachar, she said that you are traveling with us so many years. Just become part of our family. I will only cook prasadam for you. Please take prasadam. And they were feeling so embarrassed. And but who can deny, the Samrajni Draupadi cooking prasad for them, and such a great devotee herself. And but suddenly, when the next day appeared, he just vanished. Like Lord Ram vanished, Pandavas vanished. Similarly, King Anga, he also vanished. Chapter 14. So this is how we conclude chapter 13 of the fourth canto. That is the descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. So one learning here is, we have to now here is happening in the dynasty of Dhruva Maharaj, right? So in the material world also, in the material life also, generally 2, 3, 4 generations, what the wealth continues. There is a Harvard study which says the third generation curse, they call it. That the one generation works very hard, the second generation maintains, the third generation destroys. So when we are acquiring money, when we are acquiring opulence or wealth, one should not go to the uh, adharmic means, that because the wealth which has come is going to go away anyway within 1 or 2 or 3 generations. But the karma that we accumulate for that generic, for amassing that wealth can bound us life after life. Recently, I was speaking to one devotee, and his parents are into the Saukari business. They give on this and that, and it's very difficult kind of a thing actually. And then he was asking, Prabhuji, what should I do? Should I continue that business? Lot of money there in that business. And we told him very clearly that this is not a right thing to do, because one is accumulating lot of curses from the people, right? So this is happening. Just imagine this chapter is happening in the family of Dhruva Maharaj. The greatness of Dhruva we have seen just one chapter back. Okay. So any quick point, quick question, comment? Otherwise, we'll continue to next chapter. So yes, we'll focus to the next chapter, chapter 14. The story of King Vena. So largely this chapter is divided into 7 sections. So the first, it is explanation of the Vena's atrocities, text 1 to 6. That how, for the welfare of the people, all the king was gone. The citizens, the sages, they enthroned King Vena as the king, despite ministers' disapproval. And then Vena was extremely proud, very, very cruel, and he prohibited all the religious activities. From 7 to 13, we will see that people in general, they meet the sages, and they narrate their plight, how Vena is destroying the kingdom. And the sages were thinking that let us go to Vena and pacify him. That is text 14 to 22. And sages were trying to pacify Vena, and they remind him the duty of the pious king, what are the qualities of the supreme, and how you are supposed to be Naradeva. That means representing the supreme. But Vena disapproves. Vena very arrogantly replies. That is text 23 to 28. Vena very arrogantly replies to the sages, and he says that actually Naradeva means Nara is only Deva. I am the Supreme Lord, and I am maintaining you. The beggars like you, I am maintaining. And you should consider me all the incarnation of all the Devatas. And therefore, the Vena, he stops all the worship across the kingdom. There is no sacrifice, no mantras to be chanted. Just like Hiranyakashipu did, this is what the Vena also does. And the sages become extremely angry. That is text 29 to 35. If one thing one should not do is Brahmadanda Durattaya, never displease a devotee. If we are not able to please them, at least don't displease. And this is what the Vena does. And the sages, they take compassion on the citizens who are harassed by Vena. And Hunkara Matrena, there is a very powerful verse later. They are not that they are going there and they are doing some yagya. simply by, the hunkar. You can, all of you can do some hunkar. Okay, right, yes. So that simply by hunkara matrena, the Vena is dead on the throne. This is the potency of the qualified Brahmanas. There is powerful verses in Bhagavatam around this. Then 36 to 41, uh, because Vena was the king, although he was a debauchee, a rogue, but still other rogues were controlled by this rogue. When Vena is dead, all other thieves, and the dasyus, dakus and the thieves, they begin to plunder the citizens. And then citizens again come to the sages and say, at least previously we had Vena. Now, we are being plundered by so many little Venas around. Do something. And the sages observe the disturbance in the kingdom and they decide to churn the body of the Vena to produce, the offspring of the Vena. And the first offspring is born, that is text 42 to 46. His name is Bahuka, who is the sin personified. And then the next chapter is going to be the appearance of the great personality, that is Prithu Maharaj. Right. So this is the flow of the chapter. So we come to the first section, that is 1 to 6, atrocities of Vena. Text 1. Maitreya uvacha Brugadaste munayo lokanam kshemadharshinaha goptarya satati vaindrunam paschanda pashu samyatam. Translation.
The great sage Maitreya continued, O great hero Vidura, the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. When they saw that the absence of King Anga, there was no one to protect the interest of the people, they understood that without a ruler, the people would become independent and non-regulated. Purport. In this verse, the significant word Kshema Darshinaha, which refers to those who are always looking after the welfare of the people in general. All the great sages headed by Bhrigu were always thinking of how to elevate all the people of the universe to the spiritual platform. Indeed, they advised the kings of every planet to rule the people with that ultimate goal of life in mind. The great sages used to advise the head of the state or the king, and he used to rule the populace in accordance with their instruction. After the disappearance of King Anga, there was no one to follow the instructions of the great sages. Consequently, all the citizens became unruly, so much so that they could be compared to animals. As described in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, human society must be divided into four orders according to quality and work. In every society, there must be an intelligent class, administrative class, productive class, and worker class. In modern democracy, these scientific divisions are turned topsy turvy, and by vote Shudras or workers are chosen for administrative posts. Having no knowledge of the ultimate goal of life, such persons whimsically enact laws without knowledge of life's purpose. The result is that no one is happy. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So here the chapter begins. Maitreya uvacha Bhrigu daste munayo lokanam kshema darshinaha. O great hero Vidura. Now, Vidura is called as a hero here because he is greatly absorbed in Krishna consciousness. That is the real hero. The great sages headed by Bhrigu, Bhrigadaya, always thinking of welfare of people in general. When they saw the citizens without a ruler had become just like the Pashu, unregulated, they took compassion upon the citizens. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains the word Kshema Darshinaha, which is very important. That is, Kshema Darshana are the people who are always looking after the welfare of people in general. And this is what the work of the sages is, to look after people's welfare in general. Kshema Darshana. Right. Especially the great sages headed by Bhrigu, they are always thinking of how to elevate people in Krishna consciousness back home, back to Godhead. Now, the Raja has become a rogue. Of course, Vena was not yet Raja, but all the citizens, without a very proper ruler, they also became Pashuvat. Their goal of the life simply became ahar, nidra, bhaya, ityadi, and they started imitating the activities of Vena. And thus, yatha raja tatha praja, Prabhupada writes, similarly is the case in the modern democracy. Of course, the golden period that India is going through is to, to great extent, it is the exception. But generally, what happens is that in the modern democracy, there is no scientific division of the society. Varnashram is a scientific division of the society. Guna karma vibhagashaha, based on guna and karma. But in democracy, everybody is given this choice of voting, although one is qualified or not. Qualified person also has one vote, and somebody who can be very easily purchased for 500 rupees also has a one vote. And then naturally, what happens is, Prabhupada writes here, by voting, they will select another person who has no understanding of the ultimate goal of life, and thus people will whimsically enact the laws without the knowledge of the life's purpose, and nobody will be happy. This is the situation of Kali Yuga. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare
Just
Krishna.
one question I have.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, Prabhuji, you mentioned about hellish planet. What exactly it means? Hellish planet means?
Hellish planet means there are, there is a division. Currently, the planet we live on is called as the earthly planet. Martyaloka, it is called as. But the entire Brahmanda, we are very close to that now. Fifth canto, it will describe very elaborately how the Brahmanda is, and what are the hellish planets and where they are situated. So there are hellish planets which are designed for the sinful people, and particular sin, a particular punishment is being awarded in the hellish planets. So hellish planets is meant by that.
So, yesterday also you mentioned that sun will take to a hellish planet. So, does it mean sun will, मतलब मुलगा काय नरक यातना देणार असं काही आहे का?
No, no. Putraha means one who delivers one from the hellish planets. So, who is the hellish planet? Tra is Trayate. Putra means one who delivers his forefathers from the hellish planets if they are in the hellish conditions, right? So that's why there are so many, the vidhis are being recommended, Shraddha ceremony and everything, that we remember our forefathers. Then, there is a spiritual activity is performed, and the credit of that spiritual activity goes to the forefathers. And in case if some of them are, stuck in some, there's some awkward situation because of their own karma, they are relieved from that. And the best way to do that is, being Krishna conscious devotee. When somebody becomes a devotee, his generations are benefited by the devotional service of that personality.
Okay,
Right?
so Prabhuji, one more question on that. So only son will do this, daughter can't do that?
The daughter also will do that. Putri, right? So
Okay.
the daughter also will. So son is, incidentally it is spoken because here it is, the son is becoming the next king. The discussion is about the son. That's why. Okay. You have daughter?
Yes. म्हणून तर
I
हा
also
प्रश्न
have
विचारला.
daughter.
म्हणून हा
Okay.
प्रश्न विचारला म्हणलं.
Yeah. I
Is it
also have daughter.
mandatory?
Our coordinator Mudit Krishna Prabhu has two daughters. So
Okay.
daughters are as great as sons. No problem.
Yeah, so I heard
Consequentially here
yesterday.
it is. Yeah, in the context it is son. That's why the son. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so I heard yesterday's class and I was like thinking, what did Prabhuji say? Okay.
We are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, and the pastimes will come in a particular sequence. So contextually it is the son, but son and daughter both.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Thank you, sir.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Hare
you, Prabhupada.
Krishna.
Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.